Welcome to the West Wing Week, your guide to everything that's happening at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. This week, the president spoke at the Planned Parenthood conference and the White House Correspondents Association dinner, met with the King of Jordan, made 5 personnel announcements, celebrated the Sciences and the Joining Forces initiative, and embarked on a trip to Mexico and Costa Rica. That's April 26th to May 2nd, or nobody does it better.
Nobody does it better than we do when it's adequately funded, when it's adequately supported.
On Friday, the president became the first sitting president to address Planned Parenthood's national conference, where he demonstrated his unwavering support for protecting women's reproductive rights.
As long as we've got to fight to make sure women have access to quality, affordable health care, and as long as we've got to fight to protect a woman's right to make her own choices about her own health, I want you to know that you've also got a president who's going to be right there with you, fighting every step of the way. Thank you, Planned Parenthood.
Then King Abdullah of Jordan visited the White House for a bilateral meeting with the president, where the two leaders addressed the ongoing crisis in Syria.
A line's been crossed when we see tens of thousands of innocent people being killed by a regime. We're going to be working with countries like Jordan to try to obtain more direct evidence and confirmation of this potential use. In the meantime, I've been very clear publicly, but also privately, that for the Syrian government to utilize chemical weapons on its people crosses a line.
On Saturday evening, the president took a break from his normal schedule to celebrate the best of media and journalism at the annual White House Correspondents Association dinner in Washington, D.C., a soiree that dates back to 1920.
I recognize that the press and I have different jobs to do. My job is to be president. Your job is to keep me humble. Frankly, I think I'm doing my job better. Recently, though, I found a new favorite source for political news. These guys are great. I think everybody here should check it out. They tell it like it is. It's called whitehouse.gov.
On Monday, the president joined the current members of the National Academy of Sciences to celebrate the 150 years of work by the many brilliant and committed scientists who serve our country.
Now, we've got to make sure that we're training great calculus and biology teachers and encouraging students to keep up with their physics and chemistry classes. That includes Malia and Sasha. We should be reaching for a level of private and public research and development investment that we haven't seen since the height of the space race. That's my goal.
Then, the president announced his nominee to be the next Secretary of Transportation, Charlotte Mayor Anthony Foxx.
Our top priority as a nation right now is doing everything we can to grow our economy and create good jobs and rebuild opportunity for the middle class. And one of the best ways we can do that is to put more Americans back to work rebuilding our infrastructure. We need to modernize the infrastructure that powers our economy. We need more high-speed rail and internet and high-tech schools and self-healing power grids and bridges and tunnels and ports. But Congress has to step up, fund these projects. They need to do it right away.
Later in the afternoon, the president and vice president met with Latino leaders to discuss the president's upcoming trip to Mexico and Costa Rica.
I think it's going to be a terrific trip. We're looking forward to it, but one of the things that we're trying to do is to make sure that we get input from people who are concerned about hemispheric issues before we go on.
On Tuesday morning, the 100th day of the president's second term, he held a news conference in the briefing room where he answered questions on Syria, the Affordable Care Act, immigration reform, his upcoming trip to Central America, and at the very end he spoke on a conversation he'd had the day before with NBA center Jason Collins, the first openly gay man currently playing in a major American team sport.
We treat everybody fairly, and everybody's part of a family, and we judge people on the basis of their character and their performance, and not their sexual orientation.
Later, the Vice President, Dr. Jill Biden, the First Lady, and the President gathered to honor the First and Second Ladies' Joining Forces initiative. 2 years ago, they challenged the private sector to hire or train 100,000 unemployed veterans or their spouses by the end of 2013. And already, America's businesses have nearly tripled that goal, reaching 290,000 veterans and military spouses, and committing to hire or train another 435,000 veterans and military spouses over the next 5 years.
I want to salute all the companies here today who are making hiring veterans and their spouses a priority. I only hope that more companies stand up for families like mine. No one understands this better than our Commander-in-Chief and First Lady.
On Wednesday, the president made 2 more personnel announcements in the state dining room, nominating Congressman Mel Watt to lead the Federal Housing Finance Agency and Tom Wheeler to head up the FCC.
I'm going to go ahead and thank the Senate now for what I'm sure will be a speedy confirmation process so these 2 gentlemen can get to work right away.
On Thursday, the president made his 3rd personnel announcement of the week for 2 more positions in his administration. Mike Froman to be the U.S. Trade Representative, and Penny Pritzker to be Secretary of Commerce.
She's got extraordinary experience, and in case I haven't embarrassed her enough, today is her birthday. For your birthday present, you get to go through confirmation.
Then it was time to head south of the border for a 3-day trip to Mexico and Costa Rica, the president's 4th trip to Mexico, and his 6th trip to the region. To find out more information on any of these second-term topics, or to see complete videos of these events, go to whitehouse.gov. And thanks again for checking out your West Wing Week.
Does this let you off the hook? Does this mean you don't
I don't have to brief today. Thanks for doing my job.
Look at him, he's all feeling all
I got big plans for this afternoon.
Sorry, got some beer chilling in there.
No.